11-year-old Mariana Taylor was so inspired by Colin Kaepernick's protest that she took a knee for the racism and sexism happening in the country. On the third day of her protest, Mariana's teacher told her that she should stand to honor the good things in America rather than worry about injustice happening in our country. According to a letter from the American Civil Liberties Union of Maryland, also known as the ACLU, Mariana's teacher told her that she was disrespecting the country by kneeling for the pledge. Her parents, as well as the ACLU, expressed their need to see a change in the school policy. This warrants the question: should the education system govern students' right to kneel or sit during the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance? Any student has the choice to protest the patriotic rituals given by the U.S. Constitution. Hello, my name is Naisha Lamore, and I will be speaking from the political lens. It is a common belief that the protest of the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance is disrespectful. However, students and everyday citizens should be able to kneel during the national anthem, seeing that it is supported under the U.S. Constitution. The protest of the Star-Spangled Banner and the Pledge of Allegiance has been a subject of debate for many years. The issue has made its way into high schools and colleges in America. The National Association of Secondary School Principals Executive Director Joanne Bartoletti proclaims that courts ruled in the past that what students say or do regarding the national anthem cannot be governed by schools. In other words, students should not be scolded for expressing their First Amendment right. Students in America's public schools should be allowed to stand up for what they believe in without being concerned of being reprimanded, especially if the political demonstration was conducted peacefully. There have been many confrontations between students and teachers across the United States. As Chantel later mentions, a sixth grader in Florida was arrested on February 4, 2019 for refusing to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. In another instance, in September 2008, a teacher in Illinois attempted to force 15-year-old Shamar Cooper to stand up for the pledge. The teacher reprimanded him 3 times before attempting to pull Shamar out of his chair, and no action was taken against these school officials. According to Evie Blad, a staff writer for Education Week, an independent news organization that covers education policies, the Supreme Court ruled that schools cannot compel students to participate in patriotic rituals like standing for the national anthem or saying the Pledge of Allegiance. This was established in the 1942 West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett case. In this case, the Supreme Court reversed its 8-1 ruling in the Minnesville School District versus Gabatitis. Lillian and William Gabatitis were Jehovah's Witnesses who were expelled from their school in 1935 for refusing to stand for the pledge.
My name is Tizel Whitfield, and my research came from the cultural and social lens. My personal thesis for the topic is any student should have the right to fully express their culture and beliefs without the fear of any disciplinary actions. Throughout my research, I have come to the conclusion that the Pledge of Allegiance can be considered as a religious practice. Peter Beyer, the professor at the University of Nevada who specializes in law, says, and I quote, "The pledge includes the phrase 'under God,' which brings a religious aspect to the school system. In the United States Constitution, it explicitly says that there should be a separation between church and state, thus meaning that the pledge itself violates the Constitution First Amendment. Because of the religious affiliation to it, the United States Constitution is in violation of the school policy. Students should have the right to or to not to participate in saying the Pledge of Allegiance."
I base my research from an ethical lens. Hi, I'm Chantel Morales. America's Pledge of Allegiance was created as a public ritual of patriotism and has been promoted in schools since. It is unethical for the education system to make students who want to kneel and peacefully protest feel like they're being forced into standing and reciting the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance. Martha Nussbaum, an American philosopher and distinguished service professor of law and ethics, describes the Pledge of Allegiance as something that would, quote, "place the accent squarely on the nation's core moral values, include all Americans as equal, and rededicate the nation to something more than individual greed," end quote. Common in patriotic sentiments, 2 sides quickly formed around the Pledge of Allegiance, those who said it and those who did not. In the 1940s, as patriotism was on the rise, Jehovah's Witnesses were expelled for not reciting the pledge, and their parents were jailed and fined for contributing to their delinquency. As Naisha mentioned, in the West Virginia Board of Education versus Barnett case, the Supreme Court came to the decision that the board cannot compel anyone to salute the flag or recite the pledge. Robert H. Jackson, a former Supreme Court and a chief U.S. prosecutor in the late 1940s, protected the idea that the government may not keep people from stating their beliefs unless there was a threat of danger. Still today, reciting or standing or kneeling for the pledge is no threat of danger. Still today, yet only earlier this month, on February 4th, an unnamed 6th grade student in Florida was arrested after refusing to recite the Pledge of Allegiance because the substitute teacher did not want to deal with him that day. Mr. Justice Black and Mr. Justice Douglas, former members of the Supreme Court, agreed that, quote, love of country must spring from willing hearts and free minds, end quote. The most prominent counter-argument among kneeling for the national anthem is disrespecting armed forces. Jane Hampton Cook, a presidential historian and national media commentator, believes we stand to honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. And we focus on the flag so we can recognize what unites us as Americans and not what divides us. Tiana Zachariah, a popular journalist in this field, says she's okay with kneeling as a protest, but she strongly believes that the time while the national anthem plays is not the right time. Because the soldiers that have put their life on the line, this is the time to honor them. The prominent problem with this is people such as Colin Kaepernick, a former National Football League San Francisco 49ers quarterback, believes that America isn't living up to the freedoms that were promised, such as liberty and justice for all. He kneeled during the national anthem because of police brutality against African Americans, and kneeled to bring attention that there is a problem and a rule being broken across the nation.
In 1954, the 34th President Dwight D. Eisenhower added "Under God" to the Pledge of Allegiance. As I mentioned him earlier, Peter Beyer offered a solution to the issue, which is to remove "Under God" out of the Pledge of Allegiance and to restore it to how it was originally. An implication to the solution would be, with taking the religious affiliation out of the pledge, it would bring room for the government to abide by the United States Constitution and still have the separation of church and state and not have any religious affiliation with the government or schools in the system. A limitation to the solution can also be if "Under God" were to be taken out, students who do participate in saying "Under God" in their Pledge of Allegiance, then they could feel as though they are not allowed to express their culture and their beliefs, their religious aspects in a public setting.
The ACLU suggests that school officials should be disciplined for reprimanding a student for protesting the pledge as well as the anthem. As an implication, there will be fewer lawsuits regarding the violation of a student's First Amendment right. With these solutions comes limitations. Not every school will implement explicit policies regarding what teachers can and not do when students decide to protest. However, schools must respect and protect speech even on difficult topics. Therefore, no action should be taken when a student is not standing during the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem. Our team's solution is to establish a law that explicitly states that schools cannot single out a student for protesting the pledge and or the national anthem. Within this law, students cannot lose any of their academic or athletic scholarships and receive disciplinary consequences if they do choose to protest.
Some limitations of this solution are that not all schools will apply this to their school policies. Another limitation comes with the fact that it would take a long time to get this approved by Congress, and many influential religious figures may not abide by it since they believe it goes against their own beliefs.
An implication to this team solution would be schools cannot dismiss any student that feels the need to fully express their culture, their beliefs, and their religious aspects. They don't want to express their own opinions, and they should have no fear of any disciplinary actions. Also, every student should have equal opportunities to every other student, whether or not they do choose to protest, and they all have the chance to have the perfect opportunity for higher education without risk of losing anything that would disrupt that. Thank you for your time.
Okay, folks, Taz, we're going to start with you. Okay, so the first question, describe how the content of the team presentation was changed as a result of your discussions.
Well, throughout our discussions as a team, we have come across a problem initially when we first started with choosing a topic, and then we started getting into our lenses. Our lenses is definitely a challenging part because you could talk about this in many different ways, but having a cultural lens myself and an ethical lens, I think those two were definitely two important ones, so you can get into a student, and also with the political aspect, you could talk more on how can you get into more government and official requirements for students.
Okay, thanks. Naisha, what is a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own research?
Our team resolution makes me think differently about our own research because we had to put together all of our lenses to come up with our solution, especially with the social and cultural lens. We had to think about how students of different backgrounds are affected by teachers and schools reprimanding them for doing what they believe in. And it makes me think different about my research because then not only do I have to think about the stuff that's happening in the political world, but I have to think about what's happening in the classrooms. And I can tie it back to what's happening in the real world, such as Colin Kaepernick taking a knee during the game.
Okay. And then finally, Chantel, can you describe an argument from one of your partners' reports that made you think differently about your team's solution?
Tazel's argument about the religious affiliation that comes with the Pledge of Allegiance made me consider how a lot of people might go against it and why so many people will have a problem with having to say it.
Okay. Thank you.